What is going on, everybody? Welcome into Fantasy Alarm Sports Talk. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me here today, Jen Piacenti. We are fresh off the NFL draft. And Jen, this pains me to say it, but I was looking at Pro Football Focus, looking at their draft grades, and lo and behold, Dallas Cowboys got an A+. And then our good friend Jim Bowden decided, hey, let me just send that out as an email to a whole mess of people too.
Not just an A, but an A+.
Yes. How'd you feel? How'd you like it?
I loved it. You know, we were on the live stream when they made the CeeDee Lamb pick, and I know that Ronis was not loving it, but I think he's come around. They did a great job filling out the rest of it, you know? So they got what they needed, and let's see. It's going to be one heck of an offense.
Yeah, it's going to be one heck of an offense, but for fantasy purposes, I mean, let's face it, Dak gets the nice boost having that extra target. Now the question is who's going to see the targets there? You've got Amari Cooper, the $100 million man. Yep. You've got Michael Gallup, who's looking to make his splash again in another season. Now you got CeeDee Lamb, Blake Jarwin's supposed to be there, and this whole offense is supposed to run through Zeke.
That's the theory.
What gift?
I think. Yeah,
I feel like the elbow gif.
I think it's going to be really tricky for fantasy. I personally, for me, I love having CeeDee Lamb as a Cowboy, but yeah, for fantasy, I don't know that I'm going to be targeting him anywhere except for very late rounds, but I can see him getting about 80 targets and kind of filling that Randall Cobb role. So, 800 yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns. And that's a great, wide receiver for someone to have there if you can watch. And, Amari Cooper does occasionally have that plantar fasciitis issue. He may miss a couple games with injury. You never know. So as far as CeeDee Lamb, supposedly he's supposed to be the number one receiver in the draft, but he's certainly not going to be your number one fantasy receiver.
If the eye is looking a little wonky, Jed, I was having a contact lens mishap today and ended up spending about 15 minutes trying to fish half a contact lens out of this eye. So I'll turn this way. I'll say, hey, Jed.
No, it's lovely. It's like you have pink eye, but we're far apart. We're socially distant, so I'm totally safe.
Yes. Somebody farted on my pillow. I was laying down on this side.
Oh.
Lo and behold, it's the pink eye. No, it was a contact lens.
Probably tweezer, right?
Why you get these smart glasses? Smart Bender here. Look at that.
I like that look, actually.
But the glare for everybody. They can't see it in my eyes.
They can't see
how much I love a player.
Here you are. Look at those baby blues.
Well, we'll go like this today. I'll be like a pirate. Arr, baby. So what I wanted to talk about today, I don't want to look at this NFL draft from a reality standpoint.
Okay.
We've got our draft grades and stuff like that. What we need to find out and figure out is who's got the fantasy value now and who doesn't have the fantasy value. We just covered your Cowboys, and CeeDee Lamb, he drops down a little bit. Let's start with the running backs, though, first. Because, actually, you know what? Let's start with some of the trades that went down. Because actually, that actually has some fantasy impact, to say the least. The 49ers were wheeling and dealing. So not only do they trade a 3rd and a 5th round pick, but they get one of the best offensive tackles in the game in Trent Williams. Disgruntled in Washington, sure, but if he were in the draft this year, he'd be an easy 1st round pick. So they trade up, they get him. Then they pitch off Marquis Goodwin to the Eagles, who need the receiving help, and they drafted Jalen Reagor early. And then they trade Matt Breida over to Miami, and now he's going to start splitting the workload with Jordan Howard as a complimentary pass-catching back there. I'm curious as to whether or not, A, you think the offensive line help does good things for Jimmy Grapes? B, does Marquis Goodwin have any value in San Francisco? And C, would you ever draft Matt Breida in a PPR format?
Okay, so all those are great questions. So Trent Williams going to San Francisco. Okay, they traded up a 6-time Pro Bowler for a 7-time Pro Bowler that's 4 years younger, and he's already worked with Kyle Shanahan as his OC in Washington, and they gave him a 1-year deal, so he has to prove himself. I love it for San Francisco. I think that's great for Jimmy Grapes. Does this mean I think Jimmy Grapes is going to be a great quarterback for fantasy? No, I still think he's really a game manager, but I love it overall for San Francisco. Now, shipping off Marquis Goodwin, 29 years old, right? Has had a lot of injury history, has yet to really show himself, prove himself. Could he be an option in Philadelphia? Sure. But we still got Deshaun Jackson. I know Alshon Jeffrey. I know it's like a question mark whether these guys are going to be healthy. But with Jalen Reagor there, basically, I feel like it's really hard to decide who you're going to put your money on here. So it's another kind of muddy receiving core. I don't have a lot of high hopes for Marquis Goodwin suddenly having a career resurgence in Philadelphia with Carson Wentz, who clearly they don't even trust. But that's another thing altogether. But Matt Breida, on the other hand, is kind of interesting. I think he does have the chance to have more touches here than he did in San Francisco. He doesn't have to share as much. He's only sharing with Jordan Howard. Even if he only gets 50%, that's going to be more touches than he had before. And yes, he's also an injury risk, but he's only 25 years old. He still has a lot going for him. And if you look at his stats when he plays, he's really good. So if he can stay healthy, I'm interested in a late round draft pick for Matt Breida.
Definitely in for a late round draft pick for Matt Breida. I did the SiriusXM post draft on Sunday or Saturday. It was Saturday night, and I did it. I needed some running back depth, and I was on the wheel, and I went Jordan Howard and Matt Breida, figuring come season time we'll sort it out then and just try and figure it out. Who knows? So that was the trading that went down. Now let's talk about, okay, so Matt Breida, there is some value, PPR, late round, yada, yada, yada. Let's look at the rookies and let's look at their landing spots. Because this is the fun stuff. This is the fun stuff. I guess this is why we do these exercises, right? Let's talk about it. Do you have anybody? I'll tell you what, let me ask you this first and foremost. Out of all the running backs who were drafted on in this draft, who is it that you think comes away with the best fantasy value?
I think probably the person with the most immediate fantasy value is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He was a first-round pick for them. That's a powerful offense. Damian Williams is oft injured. So I think he's the one that comes away with the most immediate fantasy value. I don't necessarily think he's the best long-term dynasty choice if you're thinking long-term. But as far as this season, Clyde Edwards-Helaire for me. Who is it for you?
I mean, I love Edwards-Helaire's value in Kansas City. I think it works perfectly. It really does. However, they're not giving up on Damian Williams. They're not trading off Damian Williams. They're not benching Damian Williams. So I think the two of them are kind of going to get rotated in. Probably more often than what we saw when like Damian Williams was there and they were mixing in Spencer Ware or whomever the complimentary back is, because Andy Reid does like to mix it in. He does like using one back if he has that. I just don't necessarily know if Edwards-Helaire is going to be that guy. I love Cam Akers over in for the Rams. I don't love the talent more than I love the talent of like Jonathan Taylor, who's in Indy, or even DeAndre Swift, who's in Detroit. But I think Akers stands the best chance of getting all of that early down work and maintaining Darrell Henderson as being like the side piece kind of thing.
I agree. I like Akers a lot. He'd probably be my second choice. The only thing is I'm a little concerned that they didn't do anything to address their O-line. So
yeah, what O-line? So, who needs an O-line, right?
So that just gave him a bit of a negative there for me. But I'm with you. And actually, we talked about this, I think, on the live stream, that we both liked Cam Akers in Los Angeles because no one was buying that Henderson Brown. We're rolling with Henderson Brown. Come on,
Henderson Brown. No, I don't think anybody was buying into the Henderson Brown theory as well. So I'm with you. I think that was a. Not so great. Not so great. For me, I look at a situation like what Jonathan Taylor is in right now, and this I actually like. Now, everybody seems to be just saying, forget Marlon Mack. I don't necessarily know if I could say forget Marlon Mack, but I mean, you don't draft a guy like Jonathan Taylor, who is, and shown to be a strong, between the tackles option like he was in Wisconsin. He's not a great pass catcher. So now I kind of wonder, do we say forget Marlon Mack, or do we look at, and say Nyheim Hines is the guy maybe? Like that's what I'm kind of wondering about.
I can't imagine they're really going to forget Marlon Mack. Just like I don't think they're really going to forget Kerryon Johnson. I imagine it's going to start out as a bit of a timeshare and then just become like, fight it out, guys, and whoever's better is better. I know there's a lot of concern about the wear and tear on Jonathan Taylor because of the amount of rushing yards he had in college, but wow, that guy's good. So I'd love to see him run away with it. No pun intended.
But
I cracked myself up.
You're a funny lady. You are a funny, funny lady. All right. So if we had to rank them, let's go into the old ranking world here. Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers. Give them to me 1 through 4.
Okay. As far as fantasy value this season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would go Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cam Akers, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift. How would you do it?
Yeah, I probably, just knowing that, I'd probably go with the same ranking there. I love Edwards-Helaire. I really do. It's just, here's my lone concern, obviously, not just Damian Williams, but, these kids aren't going to have a normal training camp. There's not going to be OTAs in May. It's not going to be a June mini camp either, probably. So what we're looking at is the possibility of maybe getting into camp in July if, let's say, sports starts up. We've talked about the sports starting up with no fans on July 4th weekend. If they get into mini camp then, is that going to stunt the growth of some of these youngsters? So, Akers to me could be the guy who jumps slightly ahead of Edwards-Helaire only because Kansas City does have Damian Williams to fall back on early on in the in the season, and then slowly Edwards-Helaire can take over that spot.
I think that's absolutely true, and we just have to keep an eye on it. My biggest, the reason why I have them ranked that way is a little bit more, as I said, the O-line for LA, but second, Damian Williams is just so freaking injury prone. And if he doesn't have a full camp, is he more likely to pull his calf or gosh knows what? So I just feel like there's going to be opportunities for Clyde Edwards-Helaire no matter what, because there's no way that Damian Williams is playing 16 games.
Yeah, they're poor Damian.
I'm sorry. I know. Poor Damian.
Poor Damian.
Oh.
All right, let's look at the tier below. Some good, interesting landing spots. Keyshawn Vaughn in Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Suddenly, Tom Brady gets his James White style back. J.K. Dobbins fell into the lap of the Baltimore Ravens. Zach Moss in Buffalo. Darrington Evans in Tennessee, and then of course we got to cite A.J. Dillon. How psyched was Aaron Jones to watch the team use their second pick in this draft on his replacement?
I don't know what's going on in Green Bay, but fans should riot. I mean, you guys had you have 37-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Anyway, I'm not going to say it because you know what you have, so we won't go off on that. But so so second tier. So Keyshawn Vaughn. Great landing spot for him, another weapon for Tom Brady. And can you imagine getting your name called and then you're like, wow, in my first time, I'm getting drafted for a team and I'm going to get to play with Tom Brady. And there's no question he's going to get to play. I mean, it's him or Ronald Jones, probably the both of them. I imagine they start out splitting and then see what happens. And I guess there's still Dario Ungumwale or, there as well. Ungumwale. He's there too. So that's a possibility. But there's no question that Keyshawn Vaughn is going to get opportunity. So that's great for him. J.K. Dobbins is a really interesting one to me. I don't think any of us expected them to take a running back there, but it does just further solidify that Baltimore is a running team. That's how they like to run their offense. They love the run game. Now, it's a crowded backfield, right? You've got Mark Ingram, you've got Gus Edwards, you've got Justice Hill. So all you guys that had Justice Hill in Dynasty, it's kind of like, well, That's probably done now because now you have J.K. Dobbins. So I think J.K. Dobbins is a great player for long term. But as far as this season, I mean, we know that after 2021, they don't have Gus Edwards and they don't have Mark Ingram anymore. And Mark Ingram's 30 years old. But last year, he still rushed for 1,000 yards. So it's just kind of a matter, I think, of them betting on their future and when that future will take place. Mark Ingram could easily get injured. You know, running backs usually don't carry on much past age 30 year, you know, notable exceptions aside, like Frank Gore. But so they're thinking in the future, and J.K. Dobbins could that, and it could be by the second week he's taking over 3 downs because he can be that kind of a back. He can be a workhorse back, but we just don't know, and it's not someone you should take early, not this year.
I'm with you completely on that. I mean, I think it was great that he fell into their lap, but that's definitely more of the long play. You like Vaughn as the pass catcher there in Tampa?
I do. I think it's a good option. I think he's kind of a middling, no one you need to target. A lot of people I know have him as like number 1, like above Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They're sure. But do we really think that's the offense they're going to run when they have they have Chris Godwin, they have Mike Evans, they have Gronk, they still have Cameron Brate and OJ Howard. And, did he use a lot of running backs last year? It wasn't a big position in the Bruce Arians offense. He likes to kind of sling the ball downfield. That's kind of the way he runs it. So
yeah, but he's got to give way. He's got to give way to Tom Brady. He's got to arm. Yeah, he's got to turn to Brady and say, "You run this offense." This is because Evans. Arians loves the 7-step drop, chuck it downfield. Brady's just not built like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. But I just don't see. Go ahead. I was just saying, I just don't see Keyshawn Vaughn being this like. I'm just arguing with Dan Malin still. That's what I'm doing.
Well, so to me, I take it. I listened to what Brady said last year. You remember that comment Brady said last year around week 4, week 5? He was like, "We need to get James White more into this offense. We need to do it." And then all of a sudden, boom, James White started getting more targets and stuff. So, I think Brady likes having that security blanket. Now, Tampa Bay helped out, on the offensive line when they traded up for Wirfs.
They did.
But I still think that he needs that other guy. He needs that safety valve. Just needs it. I'll tell you, here's a guy who not a lot of people know a lot about. I'm kind of putting him. He's a complimentary back. This is strictly late round when you're building your depth, and it has to be PPR. Okay. Darrington Evans, Tennessee. Small little guy, super speedy, phenomenal pass catcher out of Appalachian State. Not a huge program that gets a lot of buzz from people, but this kid is a fantastic compliment to Derrick Henry. A fantastic. We've seen so many times where coaches have tried to make non-pass catching running backs into pass catchers. Hence, Jordan Howard bouncing around from team to team. But what I look at right now with a guy like Evans is that on third down passing situations, they've got a guy now in Evans that's strong. To me, he's faster.
He's faster.
Does better out in space than Dion Lewis ever did. So I think they've upgraded that pass catching back, whom I think they're going to use a little bit more. Instead of, having to run Henry out there for 35 plus touches every single week.
I totally agree. I think you're right. I like that. And I think they'll get him on the field a little bit more than maybe we thought because he's super fast and he's really good with the ball in his hands. So he can just make plays. And we might just see more plays and where they just find a way to get him out there. And that will help take some wear and tear off Derrick Henry too. So why not?
Right. Yeah, totally. All right, let's talk some wide receivers then. How about that? Do you have a favorite in the wide receiver class?
Not really. I feel like it's a whole lot of murkiness. I'm kind of the two ones that kind of intrigue me the most are Michael Pittman and Denzel Mims.
Ooh.
So yeah, your Jets. I think that's interesting, and Justin Jefferson a bit too. Unfortunately, the big guys don't interest me that much as far as fantasy is concerned. That being said, I guess it's a question of, do you draft based on talent or do you draft based on opportunity? So if you're drafting dynasty, you might want to draft more based on the talent. And if you're drafting redraft, you want to draft more on opportunity. And of course, we know with wide receivers, it takes a lot longer. We've already talked a lot about the abbreviated possibility of abbreviated camp, right? And it takes a lot of time for wide receivers to get that rhythm with the quarterback. It's speaking the same language, unlike a running back, which you can pretty much plug and play. So I just, in general, none of these wide receivers are super exciting. Even though there's so many great talents out there, it's just really hard to get really excited about any of them because we just don't know. There's so many unknowns.
I love the fact that you immediately went to Pittman because if we want to talk about for this year, I mean, listen, I think Pittman's got great talent. He's got great value in dynasty as well. But for redraft leagues, I agree with you. I think Pittman's in probably one of the best spots. I like Jerry Jeudy only because when before the draft, John Elway was just completely honed in on Jerry Jeudy. He loves the kid. You know, Elway spent all that time trying to draft himself for years in Denver. Finally gets somebody in Drew Lock who he likes. Who fits his style. Now it's a matter of getting him the weapons. KJ Hamler's good speed option. Take that downfield. But, you know, listen, I get that Jeudy is going to be working with Cortland Sutton, but this is a guy who Elway was ready to trade into the top 10 for. Like, he was ready to do it. He was ready to start dealing if he needed to. So when Jeudy fell to him at 15 in that first round, that was huge. So I think he will see strong target share. I think Drew Lock is able to take that next step. But Pittman, to me, that's the number 2 guy. If you're talking about just value for right now, you've got a great offensive line protecting Phillip Rivers, and there's nobody else. Who else is competing? T.Y. Hilton, who will probably miss like 4 or 5 games.
Exactly. Paris Campbell.
Ugh.
No,
Paris Campbell, who couldn't even leapfrog Devin Funchess on the depth chart last year. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the way. The other person that intrigues me a little bit is Brandon Ayuk. And mostly because they were so aggressive in making sure that they got him. And of course, you know, they just traded away Marquis. So they, you know, and he's a different kind of receiver than Deebo Samuel. Now, they don't take a lot of big downfield shots, but maybe that's because they didn't trust anybody down there. So who knows if that's going to change. So Brandon Ayuk also intrigues me because I think that there's a reason why they were very aggressive about trading up to get him.
And I think Ayuk also is going to help out in the red zone because he's just got this this ridiculous wingspan, right?
Yeah, he's like 6'6", right?
Something like that. I mean, it's huge. So, I mean, if you throw anything in his catch radius, he's got the ability to get to it. So, you know, it was like the go-to move for Jimmy Grapes last year inside the red zone was to sneaky thread that pass to Kendrick Bourne in the middle of the end zone, in the back middle of the end zone, and that was like his go-to play. Now he's got the guys. He's got a guy like Ayuk who can run that fade route into the corner and get sound effects too, right? Like full
like your
service.
Marvel receiver guy, superhero Ayuk. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I like it. I like that they were aggressive about it. And I think it speaks highly for him and what they think he can do and how they obviously have plans to use him. You don't go out and get that kind of a receiver. You know, as I said, no, they didn't do a lot of that last year, but maybe they want to. Why would you go get that kind of receiver unless you say, hey, we need to change up our game. We need to be sneaky. We need to be tricky. We need to add this in.
I agree. So I'm ranking them basically for redraft leagues, Jeudy, Pittman, Ayuk. Then I'll take a look at like Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson, Denzel Mims. Henry Ruggs, I think, is going to be pretty inconsistent this year. I mean, he's a great speed threat, great downfield threat, but you know, I mean, again, I'm more worried about Derek Carr, really.
Really? You know, I did some digging into Derek Carr this weekend, and he's not so bad, guys. Like, His, average yards per attempt is up there with Drew Brees. Like he's just not, like, his completion rate's really high. Like, I'm not really sure why he doesn't translate exactly, but if they give him all the right tools, he could be fine. He could be a good, second quarterback.
I think he can be a good second quarterback. You know what it is? And this is kind of funny considering I know how you feel about Baker Mayfield.
I do. Now, he has no excuses not to be great. If he's not great after the draft that they had and the weapons they got him, can we all agree that Baker Mayfield is a bust?
Yes, we can. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. You take a guy like Baker Mayfield last year and you surround him with all these great options, right? You give him Odell Beckham. He's got Jarvis Landry. He's got David Njoku. You give him a great pass-catching running back in Kareem Hunt. He still has Nick Chubb, who can also catch passes. And I think what we were looking for last year was for Baker Mayfield to take that step forward. To really just, okay, you've brought me all this weaponry here. Now I've got to show you something that I can do more than just progressive commercials. It didn't happen. Those commercials, though, spot on.
They were.
It didn't really happen for him. And I kind of feel like Derek Carr is in that, he's in that same testing zone that Baker was in last year. Sure. Okay, we gave you Henry Ruggs. You've got Hunter Renfrow. Tyrell Williams is still here. We brought in Lynn Bowden and Brian Edwards as two other possible, guys here. You've got Josh Jacobs to fall back on. So here are all these weapons. You've got Darren Waller. How did I forget Darren Waller? So you've got all of these weapons here. Derek, now you need to show us something. I think it's exactly the same situation here.
Yeah, I think it's definitely his job to lose, and he could lose it. But I think, with Marcus Mariota there kind of threatening, I think he could step up.
Is Marcus Mariota really that pressuring of a backup?
But speaking of backups, how about Jameis Winston to New Orleans?
Did that actually
happen yet? I think they said it wasn't going to happen until tonight.
Yeah, they were close to it. They were definitely close to it. Just on a 1-year deal. I haven't seen it confirmed yet, but
I think it's not confirmed yet. I think they said it couldn't happen until tonight for certain technical reasons, which I don't completely understand. But I kind of really like this for Jameis Winston. And the story is that he got offered more money by another club, but he chose to go to New Orleans. And I think that shows that maybe he's willing to kind of be humble and learn from the best. And if it's a 1-year deal, like they're saying, then he has a chance to, if Drew Brees gets injured, really lead a powerful offense. And if not, just really learn from the best. And they signed Taysom Hill. So it's not that they're not interested in Taysom Hill. But I think the competition will be great. And now I think they'll be using Taysom Hill even more in other trick plays because they're not as worried if he gets injured. This is all assuming that this happens. But I find it really interesting.
All right. Any other wide receivers you like? Maybe thoughts on Laviska Shenault for Jacksonville?
Yeah, I don't touch that this year because, first of all, he's just coming back from core surgery. That's not a small thing. And then, like we were talking about before, just needing to develop the chemistry with the quarterback. So he's so far behind the 8 ball as far as I'm concerned. I would.
All right. What about T. Higgins in Cincinnati?
Again, I would like to. That sounds like a lot of fun, more weapons for Joe Burrow. But there's so many guys in Cincinnati. He's going to have to unseat, he's going to have to share targets with AJ Green, John Ross, Auden Tate. And I mean, it seems pretty crowded. So again, I wouldn't take a big shot on that one.
All right. Excellent. Any other takeaways from the NFL draft that tickled your fancy? I've already got a Jukebox Monday dedication coming up to one of my favorite moments of the draft. The full out brawl between Isaiah Wilson's mom and his girlfriend that we didn't get to see, but you know it happened at some point or another.
I'm gonna have to listen to that Jukebox Monday.
Did you? I mean, you saw what happened with him and his girlfriend,
didn't.
right? Oh,
no.
Oh my God. So Isaiah Wilson, drafted by the Titans in the first round. He's so worked out. He's emotional. He's pulling his hat down over his eyes. He's crying.
I saw that.
His girlfriend, kind of wraps him up a little. She rests her head on top of his head, and she just sits there, right? She just sits there. And you see Mom in behind him. And Mom grabs the girlfriend and starts to try and, pull her off so that she can hug her son. And the girlfriend's not moving.
Oh,
and so you see the mom have to kind of hoist her a little bit.
Her.
And so that's what I want to see. I want to see the behind the scenes. I thought the NFL did a great job. No tech issues. It was good to it was good to see everybody's little war rooms that they did. Dave Gettleman being a schmuck and the only guy in his room, but he's still wearing a mask. Jerry Jones isolated on his $250 million yacht because he's a showboat, and that's what you want to do. You want to show everybody how you have a $250 million yacht while everybody's in shelter in place orders right now and struggling to make ends meet. But then even Belichick with the husky dog sitting at the table there.
See, just when you thought Bill Belichick was a bad guy, then you see he has a cute dog that he allows to make draft picks.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure Kyle Duggar is very excited about that with the second round take right there. But I mean, I dug the live look into everybody's homes and seeing certain things. So
I did too, and I was just so happy that it happened. We don't have a lot right now going on, and just to see that was really good. And they did a really, really good job of keeping it together. I agree. And I understand that viewership was way up, and I think that's good for the NFL and for everybody. So I'm glad it happened. I think it was fun. It was fun for all of us to have something to talk about and get excited about. And remember that life isn't over. It's just that we're just on a little bit of a pause.
Just a little bit of a pause, right?
It's like a pause.
It's like some dude who forgot the timing on the draft. He's driving in the car. He's on his way home right now. He's on his way home. He'll be right there. Just pause the draft for a little bit. That's what it feels like right now.
That's exactly what it's like.
With a major pandemic disease floating around too.
That too, but
all right. Well, there you go. That's going to do it for some Fantasy Alarm Sports Talk today. There's plenty of draft coverage that's going to be coming up over the course of, forever until it happens. And listen, follow Fantasy Alarm on Twitter at Fantasy Alarm. Go to our Facebook page, fantasyalarm.com, and give us a follow there. And then also, obviously, our YouTube page. Just type in Fantasy Alarm in the search bar and check it all out. We have amazing stuff still from the NFL draft. I want to make sure that you guys see it. Go to our let me see if it's been fixed right now. I was looking at it. If you go to our FATV page and I look
on
at that, and yes, there it is. You go to FATV at fantasyalarm.com. You look at our in the main menu heading, and you just click on all site videos. And you will see all the reaction videos that went down over the first 2 days of the draft. There's 27 or 28 videos.
Of them. Yeah.
They're all about 2 minutes long, no more than 2 minutes. And it's just some great reactionary information. And then obviously you have access to those live streams, which we've set up as recorded videos as well. So full draft coverage coming up. I'm going to be working on rankings early this week. They're not done yet. I got a ways to go, but we'll make sure that we are covered over the next couple of days. So a big thank you to Matt Sells, our producer, always doing phenomenal work there. For Jen Piacenti, I'm Howard Bender. This has been Fantasy Alarm Sports Talk. We'll catch you next time.